Hi everyone! Today I want to tell you about a plant I normally go and visit this time of year, but because I live at the northern edge of its range and we're all sticking at home, I'm just going to tell you about it instead. It actually starts blooming in early to mid-March, which is very early. It's called skunk cabbage. En français, simplement fetid, and in Anishinaabe it's got a few names, but Chicagoisin is one of them. Chicago is skunk. So it's obviously got some smelly aspects to it given its name. Its scientific name is Symplocarpus fetidus, and fetid is a word that essentially means something's very, very stinky. So it belongs to a family of plants that are typically tropical plants called arums. And here's a few tropical arums for you to have a look at. And arums are characterized by having this Spadix and then this spathe, kind of this hood-like spathe that goes around the Spadix. And their inflorescence is actually, the Spadix actually has a bunch of little flowers on it, and then the spathe is kind of this hood that protects the flower. And in fact, one of the largest flowers in the world is the Titan arum. You can see this is like a little bud, a little flower bud starting to bloom. And it's in that family. We have a few species in Ontario in that family, like the green dragon or the jack-in-the-pulpit, which many of you may be familiar with. So there you can see that little Spadix in the middle and then the hooded spathe. So the skunk cabbage is in that group, but its flowers are right stuck to the ground instead of on an airborne stalk. Their stalk is down underneath their root system. And the reason they're called skunk cabbage is because they of course have a skunky sort of scent. I don't find it too offensive. I don't know if I'd call it fetid, but it's definitely a strong smell. And the reason is a lot of arums will produce a scent to attract pollinators to pollinate them. And because the skunk cabbage is blooming so early, flies and that kind of thing are some of the first things to wake up in spring. And so it's producing that stinky smell to help attract pollinators. But flies are not the only pollinators that come to the skunk cabbage. It also gets visited by bees, and the reason for that is it also produces heat. So in the mid-March and early part of the year when they're blooming, there's still snow on the ground sometimes, or even ice. And so the skunk cabbage will, using this kind of really high-powered metabolic machinery inside its cells, it will start to produce heat. And that heat melts the snow around it, which allows it to bloom. But it also helps that stink get more into the air. And actually, even the shape of the skunk cabbage, this kind of like flame, like a frozen flame, like spathe, helps twist that hot, stinky air up into the air column above the plant, so that any of those insects flying in can. I'm going to switch sides here because the sun is setting on me. There we go. Any of those insects flying along the forest and wetland can find that stinky smell and check it out. And it's really nice for a bee that's just woken up who's very cold, because he or she could rest inside the skunk cabbage where it's really warm. It's actually sometimes as much of a difference as 0 degrees in the outer environment and 20 degrees Celsius in the inner environment. So that's a huge difference in temperature, and the skunk cabbage can get pretty warm. And it's possibly another reason why it has that dark color, is that helps it maintain its heat and get any sun that is coming in. But the dark color also kind of makes it look like dead meat, so it could have two functions. And this little ball inside is actually a bunch of individual flowers all stuck together. And that's what Symplocarpus means. The term that's in its scientific name refers to all these little flowers stuck together in a ball. And they produce these big round seeds that a lot of wildlife like to eat. The bear, when it emerges, will even eat the skunk cabbage spathe as well, not just the seeds later on, but it'll eat the whole thing because it's one of the few things out when a bear gets up. These are the leaves, which are just emerging as a little kind of bud, and they get really big. They're kind of like elephant ears. Let me just show you a picture of the leaves here. So there's a picture of a skunk cabbage leaf. They've got these big, beautiful, robust leaves, but you don't see those till later on in the year. So they flower this time of year, get all their pollination done, and then you see the leaves come up later on. They have a really big taproot system and all kinds of octopus fingery-like roots. And what they do is they actually have contractile roots, so they'll actually pull themselves down into the soil deeper and deeper as they get older. And that way the stalk and all the leaves kind of get pulled further and further down, but it gives it a really good anchoring. Skunk cabbages live in wetlands, but I've also seen them living on like wet slopes, so there's, you know, the possibility of erosion and that kind of thing, so that's maybe why they one of the reasons they shrink down into the soil so deep. So it's a really, really neat plant, and it's very exciting mid-March for any Canadian to have something blooming. And there's actually a really beautiful little passage by Thoreau about the skunk cabbage, where he says, if you are afflicted with melancholy at this season, go to the swamp and see the brave spears of skunk cabbage buds already advanced towards the new year. They see over the brow of winter's hill, they see another summer ahead.